Welcome to another episode of the Washington Retirement Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Meikle, and here we talk about all of your amazing Washington State retirement benefits, the best ways to utilize them, and how you can go about using them to retire earlier so you can start doing the things you enjoy. Today's episode, we're going over a strategy on how to invest your money with little to no risk and no fees. So we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into that in today's video. Before we dive into that though, I just want to say that the clip I'm pulling to go over this topic was filmed a few years back when I first discovered them, and my views on them have shifted a bit. Now, I still have clients in them. They still work okay, but putting them to the test of time, I've seen where they can be good and where they've fallen short. So I'm going to go over in detail what this account type is, how you can utilize them, and then after that, I'm going to go over things I currently use today with my clients that I personally like a little bit better, and I give you my reasons why. After that, we'll go over today's listener question, which is, would purchasing service credits or annuity be helpful in retiring earlier? We'll address that towards the end of today's episode. Now, I did just launch the Washington Wealth Breakthrough Community, so if you're someone that needs a little bit of help understanding all this stuff, but you're not ready to hire an advisor yet, you don't want to be pressured into buying stuff, you don't want to manage your money, you don't want to pay for an hour to sit down with somebody, mainly because you either don't want to pay, you don't know what to ask, you don't know if it's going to be worth it. The community is the place for you. It's a free community. You go in there, ask questions. We've got over 100 members in it right now. I'm going live at least once a month to take questions from you guys and see how I can help you guys even further. So it's free to join. There's literally no reason not to. Plus, you have access to a few exclusive videos, including part of my new course that I'm working on. It's a couple hours long, but it dives very deep into your benefits, and it's things that I'm not ever going to put on YouTube. And so the amount of detail and education you get on here is truly unique to the group. So I encourage you guys to join that. The link to get in there will be in the description or the show notes below. All right, so let's dive in. In this example, we're going to be showing $100,000 starting off. There's no money being withdrawn. We're starting the year 2000. So this is the S&P 500, the actual performance since the year 2000 until the year 2018. So you can see that we had the start of the dot-com bubble crash in 2018 ended negative as well. So the 2.8% is the real return, not average return, the real return of the S&P 500 over the last 19 years. All right, so if you have any money invested in the marketplace since 2000, your account performance would probably look something similar to this right here. So while you may have some big years like in 2003, where you have these big double-digit gains, you also have to worry about years like 08 with this crash. So the strategy that is available is something called an index annuity or equity index annuity. The one that we're using today is a special kind. They're not all built this way. This is just the way we design it here. So the way these things work is you're going to have something called gains captured. So gains captured just means when the market goes up, how much of the gain is mine? These index annuities have no market downside to them. So when the market goes down, you lose nothing. You can see here in the year 2000, if we had that same amount of money in one of these index accounts, the market lost 10%. What do we lose? Nothing. We end up with a 0% or a flat. We keep our 100,000. Same thing in 2001 and 2002. Now the trade-off is that when the market goes up, we're not going to get all of those gains. That's where this gain capture comes in. If we stay in the marketplace, we would have got the full 26.4% return that the market did that year. But in this case, we only gained 50% of that number. So that's how we end up with just 13.2%. So our gain goes from $100,000 to $113,000. So now we look at it. Which one of them has made more money? So even though we got a 26% rate of return in the marketplace, it was based off of what number? This number that's already been beaten down by the crash before it. So even though we got 26%, we're only up to $75,000. We're still down 25% from where we started off with. Where on this side, we're actually up 13% from where we started from. So as you scan down this list, you can see that every time that the market drops here on the left, you're fully protected here on the right-hand side. And at the end of it all, we end up with $230,000 or a real return of 4.5%. Now, the rate of return may seem pretty insignificant and not that much more, but it actually represents a 35% increase. So in other words, in this example, you would have made 35% more money using a safer strategy and only accepting half of the market gains. But wait, there's actually one other thing we haven't accounted for. And as you guessed in our last video, it's the fees. What are the fees in this? You probably have heard annuities have high fees. So what are the fees in this case for this annuity? Well, it's the gains you gave up, right? If you're only getting 50% of the gains, our fee was the 50% of gains we gave up. So the fee in this case is actually built into this account. So this 4.5% rate of return is after all fees. However, if you look over on the left-hand side, here's this 2.8% return. This still hasn't had any fees taken out of it yet. They didn't take out fees for the advisor management fee or for the investments you selected. So after you take out those returns, you can see that you'd probably end up with a lot less money than what it shows here on the screen. Now you can see why this secret is so well kept. It eliminates all of your market fees, all of your market risk, and still gives you some of the growth when the market goes up. So that was an excerpt of the video recorded back in like 2020 when I was more into doing this whole index annuity business. It was new to me, coming from a firm that never allowed it before, so I use it quite a bit. Looking back on this now, I still have clients that are in those type of accounts, and we do use them from time to time, but there are a few more options available today. If you didn't want to go the whole annuity route or lock up your money for a period of time, they actually have a version of this that is fully liquid. It's a trade-off. It's going to cost you more money. So while the whole premise of that was no risk and still get some of the market gains, you can still have that, the whole no risk side of thing, but you can also keep it liquid as well. The other thing I'm talking about is called a buffer ETF, an exchange trade fund where you buy whatever the contract is, and it's very similar to the way these index annuities work. You first pick how much protection you want. Do you want protected from the first 5% going down? Do you want to be protected from all of the market losses? Do you want to be protected from the first 20%? So that's the first thing you're going to pick, is how much protection I want. So the way this protection works is, should the market fall by a certain percentage on the anniversary date, that's when they assess whether or not they're going to protect their portfolio. So it's not that you'll never see negatives during the course of the time period. It's just at the end of your contract is when they apply it. So for example, if I put $10,000 into this buffer ETF, it has a 10% buffer on top of it, which means as long as the market doesn't drop more than 10%, I'm not risking my principal. So I put $10,000 in here. 1 year later, from the time I bought that ETF, they're going to look at the index I was linked to. So if I said, hey, I'm going to link to the S&P 500, they look at it right now when I bought it, and then they look at it from a year from now. And the difference between the price of those two dates, 1 year apart, is when they assess the performance. So between that year, if the market was down 11%, therefore they would take the first 10% losses for me. That extra 1% would come on my account. So I'd see my $10,000 become $9,900, right? I lost that 1% there. It's not the like year to year like most people see it. It's not like all of 2025, 2026. It's from the time you bought it until the following year. So depending on what happens between that time period, those 12 months, specifically those 12 months, that's what determines your performance. For example, if you bought one of these things, let's say you bought one in March of 2019. And so that means the 1 year maturity would be on March of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020, right? We had COVID happen, market started falling down. If at that time I was on my 12th month and the market dropped, even though the market was doing great up until that point, it doesn't matter. Because on my anniversary, the market was down, therefore it would have triggered my buffer and I would have to eat that loss. It doesn't matter if the market came back in April or in May and we ended the year positive. It's just in that time period, from that March to the following March, there was a negative market performance. Now that affects me. When you're looking at the buffer segments, that's what they mean. They're tracking annual point to points. And you can go in 1 year point to points, 2 year point to points, and things like that. So the whole point with this buffer ETF is you're able to essentially participate in the market. You have some degree of protection. And then the trade-off is you're going to get some growth. So not all of the growth, just some of it. And that's the tricky part, is how much growth do I get? It depends on how the market performs. You're only going to get a certain percentage of it, or you're going to get capped. So let's say, hey, we'll give you all of the market performance, but we'll cut you off 8%. And so if the market rallies 30%, you got 8. So on one hand, you'd be like, oh, I lost a lot of interest if I stay in the market, which is true. But you also had that protection that should it not have worked out, you would have lost less money. So these things are called, buffer ETFs. You can buy them anywhere. But it is something, if you're wanting to take some risk off the table, but still participate in the market, this is one option you could do, and it's most similar to the fixed index annuities that we just finished speaking about. The trade-off here is they are kind of expensive. The cheapest one I've seen so far is like 0.6%. Many are like 0.8, 0.9, 1% or so per year, and that's just for the ETF. That's what they charge to run the ETF account. So it doesn't matter if you're an advisor or not, and that's what you pay. If you're buying this plus your advisor's charging top of it, then you're paying more on top of that. So ETFs are more expensive. Today I actually use some other strategies. I don't really touch the index annuities much anymore, and I don't deal with buffer ETFs unless we need the liquidity. That's, in my mind, that's the biggest benefit, is they're liquid for them. If we're able to lock in the money for a period of time, like we don't need access right away, things like index linked CD or even like a growth note or income note, those type of investment contracts are usually a little bit better fit. We can customize the risk profile to have either no losses or minimum losses, just like we did with the index annuity or the structured ETF accounts. We can track the market index performance, and we're going to get a certain percentage of the gains up to a cap on there. If you're doing the index CD, they do have FDIC insurance. So it's the same exact thing you'd buy when you go to the bank, get a CD, same thing, except rather than selling for 3, 4, 5% interest per year, you can link it to Apple stock and you can get up to, let's say 26%, for example, over the next 3 years, should the stock perform that well. So those are type of contracts that are custom built. You can't buy them online. You can't go into your bank and buy them. They're custom contracts. You need to have a licensed advisor that has access to that type of investment structures in order to place or build those in. The nice thing with those contracts is they can be put in any type of accounts. So you can really put those inside of your Roth or inside of your IRA after you retire. And that way you don't have to worry about selling off or triggering any kind of tax penalties for it. So you can own these type of contracts and anything out there. In the future, I will make a more detailed video going into those more advanced type of contracts, but I think we covered enough on today's episode just between the index annuity and the structured ETF and the buffer ETF. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways that you can invest money without necessarily taking on a whole bunch of risk or in fees. And that's part of what makes investing hard. It's a lot more than just stocks and bonds in retirement. There's all types of different options and contracts, and more products and bunch of companies keep coming out, and it just gets cloudier and cloudier, to make sound investment decisions and stay on top of it all, because the market changes fast. If you're still on the fence of hiring someone or talking to someone about your finances, maybe this will give you something to think about further. That way, when you go to speak with them, you can kind of get their insight on it. Or if you're trying to do it all yourself, this gives you a little bit more things to research and look up in all of your spare time there. All right, so now let's transition to the question of the day from their audience. So the question for today is, would purchasing service credits or annuity be helpful in retiring early? So first things first, when you purchase service credits, you're buying an annuity. It's literally called the service credit annuity from the Department of Retirement Systems. So if you can buy service credits, it's an annuity, or you can buy one of their other annuities, the TERS, PERS annuity, LUF annuity, the TAP annuity. They got all kinds of different annuities available for you guys to buy. But regardless, which one you buy, will it help you retire early? And the answer is probably yes. All annuity is converting your liquid assets into a guaranteed form of income that cannot change. So I'm turning my $100,000 in Plan 3 into $5,000 per year of income that will not change. That's all the annuity does. Will $5,000 a year guarantee coming in help you retire early? Most people say it probably is. The trade-off is now that money becomes illiquid. Once it gets locked up, it can't come out. So once you buy the service credits or you go ahead and buy the TAP annuity, that money's locked up. You can't get it back out for any reason. So it's always important to make sure you have extra liquidity. So if you're retiring early and let's say you needed $8,000 per year from your investments, going into an annuity that only pays $5,000 isn't going to cover that. So in that case, it may not be as helpful. You might want to stay liquid for a little bit until you get your expenses down, for example, and then buy the annuity later. The problem is oftentimes there's not a real big window to wait. Buying service credits, even the TERS annuity, PERS annuity, they have time limits on them. You have to make that purchase within 90 days of retiring. Otherwise, they take that option away from you. You can never buy it again. So it's not something you necessarily want to wait or be like, I'll come back to that later, or I'll think about it. In a few years, maybe after I'm retired, I'll buy it later. This is not a buy it later. This is one of those decisions that have to be made when you're retiring. All right. So those that retire on the seat of their pants that call me up in March saying, hey, I'm retiring in May, can you help me? Kind of a concerning point is there's not enough time to really get a plan really dialed in. We can get, good enough. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. But making these big decisions can add just more stressors to it all. And you might make the wrong decision because we have to move so fast. And most times we really help people out in that short period of time. But it's nice when you can think about it or have more time to work and, go over all the options and see which one works best for you. All right. So in short, buying annuities can be helpful in the right circumstances if it provides the right income. But when you're doing these type of products or purchases, it should never be looked at in silo. It should be part of your whole financial plan. If you don't have a financial plan, don't know what that is, then it's probably time you get one. You probably don't want to retire without having a plan in place. The plan is your blueprint. So it tells you where your income's coming from, how it's going to be taxed, when it's going to change, where expenses are falling off. That way you have a better idea of how the future looks. It's like your own little crystal ball to see what that works into. And then you can run scenarios as far as if my expenses are higher, what if I need long-term care costs? What if inflation's higher? What if investments tank? So there's all type of different scenarios to try to break it on top of it because it's never a straight line. The people that only use Excel to do simple calculations will miss the point 100% of the time. heck, all the financial tools I use, the moment the client walks out or logs out of the meeting, it's going to be wrong. Because what are the odds I have the exact investment performance down to a T every single year? Is it performs 5% every single year? Not going to happen. Inflation really going to be 2.83% for the rest of your life? No. So the point is you want to have enough variable in there that we can rule out most scenarios out there. Now, unless you've got a really good Excel template or you spend a lot of time going through different calculators online, chances are you might be overlooking certain parts of it. And that's the scary part. When you dive into something like retirement that has no undo button and you realize, oh, I forgot to account for this, or this is a lot higher and more expensive than I thought, or I wish I would have put that into my scenario before pulling the trigger on it, that can be scary. And that's what we're here to help with. So the easiest way to help is just go ahead and join the Washington Wealth Breakthrough Group. It's a free group to join. I have a new free training in there. It's about 7 videos, a couple hours long in length, going over all of your retirement benefits, the eligibility, how to read your paycheck. So it's really giving you that foundation to get ahead and get your plan started on the right track. Plus, I go live at least once a month in that group. So if you ever want to pop in and ask questions to me, I'm happy to help inside of there. So the link to join that will be in the description or the show notes below. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the inside. And as always, remember that your future depends on what you do today. All right, before I sign off, just a real quick legal disclosure that we're required to say as licensed fiduciary advisors. So remember that this is a podcast. It is designed for educational and entertainment purposes only. I don't know you personally, therefore I cannot give you any personal advice. So please don't take anything that we say on the show as being personal, financial, legal, or tax advice. If you want that kind of stuff, make sure you seek out a professional so they can help you with the strategies and investments that are right for you. Also, please remember that despite the name of our show, we are in no way associated with Washington State or the Department of Finance Systems or any other Washington employer. We're a private-owned firm that specializes in working with Washington State employees, which is why we know so much about this stuff. So remember, we don't work for the state in any way, shape, or form. So please don't confuse us as being an official representative of the state. All right, that's it for the legal stuff. I'll catch you guys all next time.